Hi, I'm Tim.
And I'm Shani.
And today the City of Stirling's asked us to give you a bit of information and hopefully some inspiration about ways that you can use gardening to keep your house nice and cool in the summer and at the same time still let it absorb the heat from the sun in winter.
So we know it's a tricky thing to get your head around to think about your garden that way, but we're really looking forward to showing you around Ecoburbia.
So here we are at Ecoburbia. It's mid-morning and you can see that we're in full sun. And obviously in summer that's a really big issue. We want to try and keep as cool as we can. In summer the sun comes up about over there, which is to the southeast, and then it travels through a fairly high arc. So this area is going to be in the sun pretty much all morning until at least midday. So that means that this wall, which is facing the east, could get really hot. It's brick underneath, so it could act as a big heat sink. So what we've done is hung some mesh off the wall and grown a big passion fruit up there. You can actually see there's passion fruit there. So that's one of the reasons we picked this plant, is because it's a food producer. In fact, here we go. Here's a little passion fruit just about ready to go. So as well as the fruit, we've got the insulative properties of the greenery. So there's a big thick section of insulation here in the wall, in the greenery, which has stopped the sun hitting the brick and heating it up. And as a sort of extra bonus, because the vine releases so much water in transpiration, it's also got a secondary effect of cooling this whole area as well.
What we've actually got here is an area around our house which has got some paving. You might have some plastic grass, something around your house that is quite hard and has really big thermal mass. When the sun hits that thermal mass, it heats it up, and when it heats it up, it ends up coming into your house. So what we've done here is use a passion fruit vine, which has a great advantage in that it grows nice and green and also provides us with passion fruits, to actually shade and still allow us to have that walkway along the side of the house. So what you're looking at on your east and your west is actually having vertical shading. What we want to do is shade from that sun, which comes in on a really low angle, so that horizontal shading, it just comes underneath it. So you need to remember vertical shading on your east and your west, and we're going to talk a bit later about horizontal shading on your north. So tree selection is one of the things you need to think about quite a lot as you're planning the garden to heat and cool your home. So we've got a couple of good examples of things you might want to think about here. This is a mulberry tree, and we've actually pruned it so it's a beautiful shady spot in our chicken pen. So we've got the chooks in there. And again, it loses all its leaves just at the right time to let that sun in, warm them up, and then cool in the summertime. We've also got an apple tree behind me here, and that has the advantage, or both these plants have the advantage of producing food as well. Another option that's really useful for a smaller spot is the plums, the ornamental plum and pear that our next door neighbour has put in. And they're really great because you can get them that grow just a little bit wide but quite long. So it can be quite a nice hedge on the northern aspect of your house. So just a few little ideas, trees you might want to use on your north. We're quite high up on a hill here at Ecoburbia, and the winter winds are quite an issue for us. So on the southern side of our property, where they get full sun, we've put some citrus. So we've got a couple of oranges, different types of mandarins, a lime tree, a lemon tree, and they block out that winter wind. We still get the breeze through the house in the summer because we haven't planted anything on the south side of the actual house itself. But it's probably good to have a think at your house. Where are the winds coming from? And where do I need to block them, and where do I need to let them come through?
So here we are. This time we're on the north, and you can see it's really nice and shady under here. We've created a structure and then we've laid the grapes over the top. These grapes gave us pretty good coverage after 2 years. Initially we used shade cloth, and then the grapes have kicked in. They give us a really nice green shade. And you can see down here the grapes are there as well, so we get the added bonus of having food. Unlike the other place where we were talking about the importance of having vertical shade on the east and west, here on the north we want the shade to run horizontally so that it stops the sun coming in when it's at a high angle like this. But when the winter comes around, not only will the sun come down at a lower angle so it gets inside the house behind me, but also the grapevine's deciduous, which is another reason we chose a grape for here. It'll lose all its leaves, there'll be just the branches there, and so when the winter sun comes, the sun will come pouring in through here and heat up the house inside behind me. Another good thing that we've done here is underneath all this there used to be a black concrete driveway. So before we put the deck in, we covered it in mulch. You can see all the mulch down there. The mulch does a couple of things. It insulated the hot black concrete so that we didn't get that radiant heat coming out, and that it also retains moisture. And then in this section here we've laid a wooden deck, so instead of using something like brick paving or concrete, we've used timber so that it doesn't absorb heat and hold heat in where you don't want it.
Okay, so here we are on the west of Ecoburbia, and again, remembering on our west and our east, we're wanting vertical shade. So we've planted a Virginia creeper here, and we've even actually got it growing in a pot. So even if you don't have access to some soil, it's still quite a lot that you can grow in large pots. Espalier, some fruit trees, can often be grown in pots, and they're going to create a vertical shade. You can even use a grapevine on your east and your west. And if you're into food growing, things like pumpkins and cucumbers, all sorts of beans, they're going to be able to grow up high and shade your house in summertime. Most of the plants that you're going to be planting to keep your house cool in your gardens are not native species. Our soils are designed for native species, but these are not plants that would naturally be growing in our soils. So we do have to think about additives to our soil that's going to make it easier for them to grow. So one of the things about our soils is they're really sandy, so we need to think about adding some clay, and there are different types of clay that you can add to your soil. We need to be thinking about water retention, so we need to think about compost and adding organic matter in some way to the soil. And we might want to think about having a slow release sort of fertilizer with lots of different elements in it that are going to help our soils provide what the plant needs in the form of, say, rock dust. But if you go to your local garden centre, they're going to really be able to help you with all of the preparation you're going to need for your new garden.
Thanks for joining us, having a little wander around Ecoburbia and having a look at all the different ways that your garden can help make your living space more comfortable. What do you reckon?
Well, I reckon the only thing we should talk about is the fact how much cheaper it is to put a garden in. So instead of doing a massive big renovation on your house, have a go with a few trees, a few vines, various bits and pieces, and you may find that your home's more comfortable without having to spend a lot of money.
And without having to build extra infrastructure.
Yeah.
Great. We'll see you next time.